Well, welcome to SportsTalk Live with me, Nick Burt. This is going to be the first episode of this. Going to be real interesting to see how this goes. Going to talk about a lot of sports today. I know I mentioned in the last live stream, quick kick around the pitch, which was episode 1. Episode 2 coming sometime soon. There's going to be a lot of different topics talked about on this channel, and this is going to be one of those. So Sports Talk Live, it's just going to be talking about the sports that I feel like need mentioning right now and what's going on, what my thoughts are on it. And, let's just get into it because there's a lot of things going on right now. You got the NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs. Most of the teams in both those leagues are in off seasons, so you have some coaching changes. There's just a lot of stuff going on. So first, I want to talk about the results from last night's draft lottery. The San Antonio Spurs won the draft lottery. Believe it's the third time they've ever won it. Their last two draft picks, number 1 overall was David Robinson and Tim Duncan, two generational centers. So, the Spurs locking into Victor Wembanyama, which I have some thoughts on that. Woj was saying yesterday he's the most hyped prospect in the history of team sport and professional sport. I believe that's an absolute joke. Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, Peyton Manning, John Elway, Bryce Harper, LeBron. I put LeBron over Wembanyama. When I heard that take last night, it just absolutely floored me because it's not true. Wembanyama is still over in France. Their talent's nowhere close to what he's going to be playing in the NBA. I keep joking around that Wembanyama was too scared of getting exposed in a Big East or Big Ten gym, which is why he didn't come here for college, which is probably not true, but, it's something I'll push for fun. But it's so interesting that the Spurs got this pick because that's honestly probably the best place out of the teams that were around the first pick. So I'll say the teams that were 1 through 5, as you can see the results, it was Spurs 1, Hornets 2, Trailblazers 3, Rockets 4, Pistons 5. The Spurs are definitely the best team right there. Greg Popovich is such a great developer. He did it with Tim Duncan. I believe they said he was a part of the staff when David Robinson was drafted, so that even adds more development there. I like it. It probably, for a win now, probably would have been better with the Trailblazers with Damian Lillard there, but I think the Spurs are the best spot for him. Obviously, it's not a huge market, San Antonio, but it's not super small. I think Wembanyama is going to do very good there. Now, obviously, I just said that what Woj said of him being the best prospect ever, I said that's not true. I think he's going to be a very good player. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's going to be on the stature of LeBron. I don't think he's going to be like McDavid or Crosby. He's not that guy. He's not going to be the greatest basketball player of all time. The talent that he's playing with in France, it's showing that he's very good, but he's not great. Now, I don't think he's going to be a Darko Milicic either. That was just, at the time, yes, he was the number 2 pick in the draft, but that was also a completely different time in 2003, and knowing what we know now, obviously he wouldn't get drafted in that spot. But, still, the Pistons were taking him. If they took anybody else, they probably don't win the title in 2004. Because those trades probably don't happen. That got the Pistons to the finals and obviously won it. I think Wembanyama is going to be really good. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's going to be generational like LeBron or Michael Jordan, which people are making him out to be. I don't think a center can do that. Is he going to be a Shaquille O'Neal? Maybe. I really think he's going to be a Tim Duncan, which is perfectly fitting given the location he's going to. He's going to be a good player. Very good. it's just going to depend on if he can take that next step. And like I said, I think San Antonio is the best spot. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays his whole career in San Antonio. Obviously, Popovich is up there in age. Don't know how long he's going to last coaching with the Spurs, but I feel like they're in somewhat good hands given what should be coming down the line. So obviously the Hornets were at 2, Trailblazers 3, Rockets 4, Pistons 5. I do want to talk about the Pistons going to 5 because if you go on Detroit Twitter, basically, you'd think like the worst thing in the world has happened to them. They keep saying that, the lottery's rigged, even for the NHL lottery. So basically any of the lotteries are rigged. The draft is terrible. We had the worst record in the league and we fell to 5. How can this happen? Do you not remember you won the draft lottery 2 years ago and drafted Cade Cunningham? You're acting like you've never won a lottery before, and you literally won it 2 years ago. I don't get this fan base, the whole Detroit fan base. Oh, it's Detroit versus everybody. That's the worst argument I've ever heard. Oh my gosh, it's so terrible. Yes, maybe you've dropped in the lottery. It's not rigged against you. I'm going to talk hockey really quick because I believe the Red Wings in total with the draft lottery era have dropped like the second most spots or whatever. If the lottery's rigged, the NHL would be rigging it for you. You're an original 6 franchise that benefits when you're really good and you bring in a lot of money. The NHL would be rigging the lottery for you to win if it was rigged. It's not. And you're going to say, oh, the Blackhawks won Bedard. It's not rigged. They literally show the video. I don't know what you want. It's not rigged. I'm sorry. But Detroit versus everybody, not a real argument. It's just mind-boggling, which is also why we're going to move into this topic next. NBA coaching searches. Pistons obviously have an opening. It seems like the leader in the clubhouse is Kevin Ollie, former UConn coach and former overtime elite head coach, which I believe is a high school coaching. The Pistons deserve Kevin Ollie. Most of the fan base deserves Kevin Ollie. There's a few people out there that don't deserve him because they're reasonable people in the fan base. You deserve Kevin Ollie. Kevin Ollie is I don't want to say he's an awful coach because I think he's a good coach. He's not great, but he's more closer to terrible than he is good. I obviously here have UConn Huskies national championship Tervis. They're one of the few college basketball teams I root for, so I lived through the Kevin Ollie days at UConn. He tore that program to the absolute ground, and he deserved to get fired. It's still shocking that UConn won a national title in this quick of a time span with the absolute just destruction that he left in Storrs, Connecticut. That being said, I still don't. It seems like it's going to be any day now. The Pistons are going to announce who they're hiring. I hope it's Kevin Ollie because I think that's just going to be absolutely hilarious. But I don't know if it's going to be him. I still think I believe it's like Charles Lee, the Bucks assistant. I still think he's the leader in the clubhouse because I don't think he's getting interviewed for the Bucks job. I just saw earlier today that Woj said that Houston Cougars head coach Kelvin Sampson got an interview for the Bucks job, which that's interesting. No college coach jumping to the pros really does well. I believe he has done it before. I could be wrong. I might be thinking of Leonard Hamilton. I know Leonard Hamilton made the jump, and he only lasted a year. I still think it's going to be Charles Lee that's going to get hired for the Piston job. I think this whole Kevin Ollie thing is smoke and mirrors. As much as I want it to happen because it would be hilarious, I don't think it will. But like I said, if it happens, I will be so thrilled by it because it would just be absolutely hilarious. NBA playoffs started last night, Western Conference Finals. The Nuggets beat the Lakers by, I believe it was 4 or 5. They are up 1-0 in the series as the series just started yesterday. It's going to be an interesting series because the Lakers do look like they have what they had in the bubble, which it was still a Mickey Mouse championship because it was at Disney World. I think the Nuggets are on a different level, though. They look like they have that killer instinct to win a title for the first time ever. I believe the stat is the last final that the Nuggets have been in was the last ABA championship, which it was 78 or 79, somewhere around there. This Nuggets team looks really good. And for a guy that was drafted during a Taco Bell commercial, Nikola Jokic, he deserved the MVP this year, I think. I know Joel Embiid had a good year, a very good year, but I still think Jokic, I think he's the best player in the league right now, and I think he deserved that MVP, but obviously he didn't win it. I think the Nuggets are just that much better. I think they'll end up winning in 6 against the Lakers. It will be interesting to see how it plays out, though, because LeBron, I think he still has one run left in him, and it could be this run. The other side of the bracket, it is Boston and Miami. That's going to be awesome to watch. Both teams just look red hot right now in the playoffs. Obviously, Boston got down to Philly, and it looked like Philly might eke it out, but then Doc Rivers happened, and Jimmy Butler has just looked so different this playoffs. He's got that killer instinct, like I said the Nuggets have. He's got that. I could easily see him basically carrying Miami to the finals like he did in the bubble. Once again, Mickey Mouse championship, but still. I still think Boston gets this done in 7, and only because that 7th game will be in Boston. If that game was in Miami, I think Miami wins this series. I think it's going to come down to home court advantage, and I think it's going to be a Celtics-Nuggets final. I think that's going to be really entertaining. And I think, possibly that series, if that happened, it could go 7 games easily. So I'm just looking forward to the basketball, basically. I think both series are going to be really good. I don't think there's going to be like a blowout in the series, like somebody winning 4-0 or 4-1. I think they both go to 6 or 7. It's going to be really entertaining to watch, for sure. So now let's move to just it shouldn't be the story, because the NHL playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs, absolutely amazing. But with there being a few off days right now, a very big thing happened yesterday in Arizona. The people of Tempe and the surrounding county, I believe, voted on a referendum to basically build a new arena for the Coyotes, and it was rejected by the people of Tempe. It's a devastating blow for the Coyotes. I don't know if they survive this. Obviously, reports are right now they'll be in Arizona this year. The league has to say that, if we're honest here. The league has to say they're going to be in Tempe next year, which they'll be playing at the Mullet Arena, which hosts 4,500 people at Arizona State University, if you don't know. This is just, I don't know if the Coyotes can come back from this. This seemed to be the plan B, and there was nothing after plan B because they thought this was a slam dunk. Obviously not going to get into like all the legal and politics of it, but it was mostly a privately funded arena. I believe the taxpayers would have had to pay to clean up the dump, I believe is what they were saying, but then it was like tax write-offs and tax breaks and stuff I don't understand. so I shouldn't be talking about it, but the people of Tempe made their voices heard, and they said no. Like I said, the NHL has tried so hard with this team. It's been Gary Bettman's pet project since they moved there in '96 from Winnipeg. I don't think they survive this. I don't think that they can last another 3 to 4 years at the Mullet Arena. They have to have a plan in place. I would say by the beginning of the season, have ground broken on an arena for me to say, okay, the Coyotes are good. They'll be in Arizona long term. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Coyotes have finally reached the point where, because Gary Bettman works for the owners. The owners want the money. And Arizona's not doing that right now. I don't know if they ever have been. It's such a shame because I do think hockey in Arizona can work. I'll get into what my thoughts are future-wise for the Coyotes. I think hockey in Arizona really could work. We've seen it work in Tampa. We're seeing it work in Carolina on Sunrise, in Vegas especially. It can work. It's just this team, they can't. This team has been in Arizona since '96. That's 27 years, I believe. 26 or 27 seasons they've been in Arizona. They've had one good season, if we're honest. One successful season. That was 2012. They made it to the Western Conference Finals, lost to the Kings in 6, I believe. The Kings went on to win the Cup. You can't build a fan base if your team is just absolutely in the dumpster every year, if we're honest. Yes, the Coyotes are filling out a 4,500 seat arena right now because it's 4,500 seats. It seemed like the Coyotes never really had a plan, basically. It was just, we're moving to Arizona once the Jets were done, and they'll figure it out on the way. They never truly figured it out, though. When they moved to Glendale, I believe that was 02 or 03, I think there was a lot more planned with that, and it just went absolutely terrible for the Coyotes. And that's where the downfall began for the Coyotes. Like I said, I really feel bad for the fan base because I know there are dedicated Coyotes fans out there, but I don't see the Coyotes in this iteration surviving past this. So obviously the main topic has been, relocation. So the thing with relocation is everybody's saying, oh, it can't be done. They got to stay a lame duck year. Just to remind people, the Winnipeg Jets did not officially move to Winnipeg until May 31st of 2011. They were playing in Winnipeg by October. The Thrashers' move to Winnipeg happened very quick in late May of 2011. I remember seeing snippets about it because the Coyotes were in desperate times there too. Notice a common trend. The Coyotes have been in desperate times multiple times. It was basically, I believe, like a 15 or 20 minute difference of the Coyotes going back to Winnipeg compared to the Thrashers. And the only reason the Thrashers went to Winnipeg is because they didn't have a building. The Atlanta Spirit Group kicked them out of the Phillips Arena, and they had nowhere to play. So they had to get something done, the NHL, because the Thrashers didn't have an arena in Atlanta, and that's where Winnipeg came in and moved them, and the process went very quickly. But you also got to remember, Winnipeg knew that this was basically coming for a long time, so they did have time to get ready for that. I don't know if the NHL really saw this Coyote situation happening this fast, because I think everybody thought this vote would pass. I thought the vote would pass. I know, like, the source is saying Gary Bettman really thought this was a slam dunk. Obviously, Coyotes ownership did. This kind of all came out of nowhere last night when the vote didn't pass. So obviously, few cities have been thrown out today. Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet on the 32 Thoughts podcast said it's Houston, Salt Lake City, Kansas City, and Sacramento are the 4 names to look out for with this Coyotes possible move. Obviously, like I just said a few minutes ago, they're saying the Coyotes are playing in Tempe in 23-24. You have to say that because you're contractually obligated right now to play at the Mullet Arena. People forget with the Thrashers move, they were still selling Thrashers season tickets up until May 31st when the move was announced. So things can happen very quickly. So out of these 4, I think it's really interesting. One, Sacramento really shocked me. Obviously, they have the Golden One Center, home of the Kings, but I don't think the arena's really built for hockey. So that one kind of shocked me, and I know the Kings owner's currently bidding for the Senators, so maybe that's the reason why Sacramento was thrown in. I don't think that's why, but I don't see Sacramento being one of the possible relocation spaces. Kansas City and Houston are names that have been thrown around for a few years now. Kansas City much more. They obviously dealt with the Penguins in the early 2000s, basically when Crosby was drafted. I mean, the Penguins were half-packed to Kansas City at the time. And Pittsburgh and the Pennsylvania government came in at the last minute, and what is now PPG Paints Arena was built and kept the Penguins in Pittsburgh. Kansas City is what is now, I believe, the T-Mobile Center. It was built in 2007, so it's on its 16th year. But, I mean, it's still a very newish arena. You obviously have Houston, too. You have the Toyota Center, home of the Rockets right now, former home of the Houston Aeros, which was the AHL affiliate of the Minnesota Wild, I believe, in their final seasons, and it was also an IHL team at the time. Then if you go back, they were also a WHA team. Had the Howe family for a moment there. And then you have Salt Lake City. This one kind of surprised me because it kind of felt like it's out of nowhere, but I feel like it's the one that makes the most sense right now. Jazz owner, I don't remember his name right now. There's been reports within the last few months that he's met with Bettman about getting a team to Salt Lake City. And as much as it didn't make sense, as the more and more I read into it, the more and more it makes sense for Salt Lake City to be the new home of the Coyotes. The arena, the Vivint Smart Home Arena, 100% not built for hockey. They also have the Maverick Center, I believe. It holds 12,000. It's home to the Utah Grizzlies, which is the ECHL team in Salt Lake City. I would think that they're playing at the Vivint Smart Home Arena, which is the home of the Jazz right in downtown. I would think that's where the NHL would go if they relocate. But I feel like this is all, the whole Salt Lake City thing, if it's going to happen, it's all also going to be based around Salt Lake City bidding for the 2030 Winter Olympics. Because with that, you're going to get a brand new arena. I think the Jazz kind of are already in the feeling out process of a new arena. So with the Olympics, you can also tie hockey into that. I think Salt Lake City makes the most sense right now. There's rumors with Houston. Obviously, that one would make the most sense because I think Toyota Center's 100% prepared for hockey right now. They have an owner possibly. That's the thing. Tillman Fertitta, the owner of the Rockets, like a year or two ago, he did meet with the league, trying to get a team to Houston, but apparently the league wasn't really thrilled with him. So maybe they don't have an owner for Houston. I think Salt Lake City's going to be where the Coyotes move if it happens. There were some reports today that that's the internal discussion within the Coyotes organization right now. And I think it somewhat fits the NHL's kind of idea. Like, you're still growing into a newer market. It's a smaller market than Phoenix/Tempe, but it could be a very interesting because they only have the Jazz and Real Salt Lake of MLS. They're like very heavily supported, even if the teams are absolutely terrible. And I think that's what the NHL is kind of looking for here. I think it's going to be really interesting to see if the Coyotes, like I said, I don't think they're making it out of this, basically. I think they're going to be relocated. I don't know if it's going to be this season or next season. My thoughts will be it's going to be more towards next season. And I think it's going to be Salt Lake City because this is my thought with it. Like I said, I think hockey in Arizona can work. The brand of the Arizona Coyotes is so toxic right now in the state of Arizona because of how bad they've been, how poor they've been run, and just how bad it's been for the 25 plus years they've been there and their one good season. It's so toxic that nobody wants to work with the brand, basically. I think the idea, now, Gary Bettman, you can take this idea. I don't care. I think you move the Coyotes to Salt Lake City. You give Alex Mariuello in the ownership group of the Coyotes, and you say, hey, we're going to give you 5, 6, 7 years, figure out an arena, and we're going to give you an expansion team, and we'll do it at a discount. Because with the Senators about to sell for $1 billion, that expansion fee is probably going to be $1 billion from the next team. So maybe like the NHL makes it like, $500 million, and you get a new team. You tell the team that's relocating to Salt Lake City, we're keeping the Coyotes name here. So you make them like the Salt Lake Hornets or something. I don't know. That's just something to come up. And you give them the 5, 6, 7 years to figure things out, get an arena built, because I think the Suns are going to be needing an arena soon. And that's another thing I didn't mention. People are saying, Matt Ishbia, the new owner of the Suns, maybe they should approach him of buying the Coyotes. I highly doubt he wants to buy the Coyotes. The Coyotes are such a bad team. And I mean, the Suns historically aren't much better, but still, there might be an area now where the Coyotes could play in the Footprint Center or whatever it's called now, where the Suns play now that Ishbia owns it, because they didn't want to. Robert Salver, the old owner of the Suns, didn't want the Coyotes playing there. Maybe Ishbia will let them. I don't know if he will, though. But you work with the Suns, you work with Phoenix, you get a new arena built, you bring the Coyotes back. So as an expansion team, and with the way expansion teams have worked in the NHL the past 2-3 cycles, basically with the Knights and the Kraken, you're going to get a much better team and probably a winner much sooner than any of these other teams. And then, because like Houston's not getting a team with the Coyotes, obviously. So then you get expansion money out of Houston and Atlanta. Atlanta is somewhat building a new arena. And I think Houston will find owners, whether it be Fertitta or somebody else. You give them those three, and then the fourth can be a wild card. And is it Quebec City? Maybe. I feel like it's going to be until after Bettman is out of the commissioner's office that Quebec City even possibly gets a team. So obviously a lot of the questions have been, why Quebec City not mentioned for the Coyotes? They have a brand new, as in like 5 or 6 or 7 years old arena in Quebec City, the Videotron Center. Their QMJHL team's drawing 18,000 people a game. The Coyotes aren't moving to Quebec. The logistics of it, Bettman not wanting to move them there, and just basically the logistics. You're not going to move the Coyotes from the Western Conference to an Eastern Conference team, basically. You're going to have to realign the divisions. Columbus isn't moving back to the West. Detroit sure isn't moving back to the West. You're not going to get anybody that voluntarily says, oh, I'll go to the West. The West might not be the stronger conference of them right now, but nobody wants half their games being played at 10 o'clock at night, especially like East Coast teams. Also, the Canadian dollar, that's always been a problem. That's why Quebec moved in the first place. Also, the ownership wasn't great, but it was mostly the Canadian dollar was like very bad at the time in 95, that it just wasn't feasible. Yes, the arena it's a brand new arena, basically, NHL standards wise. I just don't see it happening. The whole NHL idea has been growing the game, bringing in new fans. Houston's bringing in new fans. Salt Lake City's bringing in new fans. Kansas City's bringing in new fans. Sacramento, they're bringing new fans. Guess what? The Golden Knights have brought in new fans. The Seattle Kraken have brought in new fans. You can say the Florida Panthers if you want to go that far back. The Carolina Hurricanes, even the Arizona Coyotes. They've all brought in new fans. They've brought in areas that the NHL previously hasn't been in. You're not getting that in Quebec City. You're not bringing in new fans. You have core fans that are already there. Yes, you're going to get new money in, but it's not going to be like the new money that's going to be brought in a Houston or in Atlanta for the third time. It is a shame because I do think Quebec City could support an NHL team. I mean, it was like their last series was against the defending Stanley Cup champion Rangers in the 95 playoffs, and I believe it went to like game 6 or 7. And it was like the first round or something like that. And they were still heavily supported at the time. Obviously, they won the Stanley Cup the next year in Colorado. But I don't see Quebec being an option for the Coyotes because of the absolute logistics of it. I just don't think it's going to work. And like I said, it's a shame. I think Quebec would be a great place to have a second hockey team in the province because obviously of Montreal. But, I mean, I guess we'll see. It's going to be a long road, I think, for the Coyotes because obviously we have no idea if they'll be in Arizona this upcoming season. I still think they will be. I guess we'll see. But I do really feel bad for the core fans in Phoenix. I mean, you have two examples of why the Arizona market could work in Toronto right now. Austin Matthews, Matthew Nyes. Both kids from Arizona. Both grew up as Coyotes fans, fell in love with the game because of the Coyotes, and now are playing in the biggest market in the league, basically, because the Maple Leafs are just that big. Like I said, I think hockey in Arizona can work. I think the Coyotes brand name is so toxic right now that it needs a break. And I think them possibly moving and then getting an expansion franchise in the future is the way for that to work. So also announced today, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix for F1 this weekend was canceled due to deadly flooding in the northern Italy region where the Imola circuit is located. Obviously the prayers are out to people that are being affected by this. It's just terrible to see. I mean, we've seen pictures today that course is just absolutely like underwater right now. So there was no way there was going to be a race this weekend. So it's a shame that there's not going to be a race this weekend. But if we're also honest, it wasn't really going to be a close race either. We know Verstappen was probably going to finish one. Perez was probably going to finish second. Third is going to be up for debate, but it would have been Fernando Alonso. So no race this weekend. Next weekend's the big one, the Monaco Grand Prix, the race everybody wants to win, yet you can't pass on the circuit. Going to be an interesting race. Checo Perez, he's been the king of street circuits lately, so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. We'll obviously have a preview when it comes closer. And finally, let's just do a quick kick around the pitch. The Champions League final is set. It is Manchester City versus Inter Milan. I said in my previous video that, I thought Real Madrid could possibly do this. This Man City team is just that different. I think I still stick by my statement that either of these, whoever came out of this was beating whichever Milan team they play in Istanbul in like 24 days time. I still think that's going to happen. I think City win this like 3-1 or 3-0. I think the era of oil money winning the Champions League officially starts on that day. I don't think Inter Milan has enough to beat City. Erling Haaland's on a different level right now. Ilkay Gundogan, even though it looks like he might be on the outs at Man City, different level right now. De Bruyne, different level right now. It just, it's going to be an interesting game, but we'll see. Other games I previewed was the championship semifinal, the championship playoff final, the richest game in football, as they call it, because the winner gets all the Premier League revenue and the loser gets the gate tickets from the game, basically. It's going to be Luton Town versus Coventry City. I thought Middlesbrough were going to go through. They did not. They just looked off today. Luton Town, great performance yesterday at the Kenilworth Road against Sunderland. Obviously, I kind of wanted Sunderland to go through. But, yeah, it is Coventry City versus Luton Town for the final now. One of those teams will be playing in the Premier League next year. I think either of them finish bottom of the league next year. But I think this game really shows what promotion and relegation does and why it's positive. Both these teams were in League Two in 2017-18. Both got promoted that same year. League Two is the fourth tier in England. Luton Town were even a tier lower in 2013, I believe it was, 2013 or 2014. So they were in the fifth tier. And both these teams are now a game away from the Premier League. Promotion and relegation is so... I enjoy it so much because you can see like the progression of a team like a Luton Town go from the fifth tier to being a game away from the biggest league in the world in their 10,000 seat stadium that literally looks like a shed. I think this game's going to be interesting no matter what. I'm excited to watch it. I believe it's next weekend, not this weekend, but next weekend. And should be, like I said, it's going to be an entertaining game. I'm excited to see which team makes it to the Premier League next year. And if I had to pick right now, I think I'm going to go with Luton Town. I think they just have that little bit more to get there. But we'll obviously preview that when it comes closer. So that is going to be it for Sports Talk, the first episode of Sports Talk. It looks like we went almost 40 minutes today. You know what? That's not bad. So yeah, if you stumble across this video, thanks for watching. It was, fun just getting my thoughts out there, and we'll do this again probably in a few days' time. There's going to be more playoff action coming. I'm sure coaches are going to get hired. Coaches might get fired. You never know. There's always soccer going on. So, yeah, thank you for watching. If you liked it, hit like and subscribe. And, yeah, thank you once again.